tell you what.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Retic Lounge. Lucas, how's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm excited for this one. Episode 130, and we got a female retic keeper coming on, and she keeps mainland, she keeps the door stuff, but I'm excited for this one. We have Nikki with Ladytis Exotics that is coming on. I'm trying to remember where I first met Nikki. We caught up on a podcast not too long ago with Gary, but her and I have been off and on just touching base with each other for a while now, and I know that she was part of our Patreon for a bit. I'm just excited to shoot the shit, talk Retics with her.
Yeah, me too. I think it's kind of cool just because it's a form of keeping retics that you don't see enough, and I think a lot of people can implement some of the things that Nikki's doing over there.
Right, I agree. It's probably going to rub some of the old school keepers, but we'll see. I mean, I'm all about ruffling feathers, so.
I have about one room that we could execute this in. Beyond that, I don't know that the retics and the cats would play that nicely.
Right, that's clearly. But no, I'm super excited to bring her on. Before we do that, I do want to give a few shout outs real quick. We have that link down below. Join our Patreon. We have an awesome pop-in Discord, as low as $5 a month and as high as $50 a month. That supports the podcast, the network, and being able to travel and do in-person podcasts, all that good stuff. And then another big shout out is to one of our...
Well, wait.
Wait. What?
Go back.
Ooh.
This is the last week to be able to join the Patreon, to be able to be entered. Yep, to be able to be entered into the book club giveaway, where we're giving away a signed copy of the complete Reticulated Python, signed by the author Glenn McClellan himself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So Nate, this week we got to put up how to enter, and then people will start entering, and I'm hoping by the end of the first week of March, we'll have the winner.
All right. Well, let's jump to it now.
Yeah. Now.
For the freshest, the bestest, as MJ would say, Cold Blooded Cafe. Remember to use our code Reptile Lounge 20 for 20% off your order. Lucas, you know that they still have that free shipping deal going on?
They do. Yeah. Anything over $200.
So make a big order, make sure you get that 20% off and get it shipped free to your door.
Right. Anything else before we bring Nikki on? Whether you've poured your heart and soul into your reptile business or you've just begun your business journey, AE Foundry has you covered with next level expertise in graphic design, motion graphics, videography, photography, and so much more. If you've been dying for a new logo for your reptile business, motion graphics for your current logo, a new website, or need assistance making your video podcast come to life, then listen carefully. AE Foundry's mission places storytelling at its core. AE Foundry believes that a distinctive story and background are the driving forces that set your brand apart. In today's market, consumers seek more than just products. They crave a connection built on trust with the brands they cherish. AE Foundry is committed to empowering small businesses and fostering authenticity that resonates with their consumers. Reach out to them and let them help you craft a visual narrative that helps establish a genuine and lasting connection with your audience. To contact AE Foundry, email them at aromero@aefoundry.com or on Instagram at AE Foundry. When it comes to housing your retics, trust me, you're going to want an enclosure that will be just as strong and durable as your reticulated python. The Heartland Reptile Enclosure is next level tough and will outlive you and your retic by several generations. Heartland Reptile Enclosures are designed and manufactured out of powder-coated aluminum to provide the highest quality and longevity available in the reptile enclosure. What makes them even better is they are lighter than your PVC and plastic enclosures out there and are extremely tough. Stop playing around with plastic enclosures for your large constrictors and step up your enclosure game with the Heartland Reptile Enclosure. To inquire about one of these enclosures, speak to Jordan himself at Heartland Reptiles on Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. Here on TRL, we preach about the importance of using hooks, feeding tongs, and other tools with your reticulated python all the time. Animal Equipment by Stoney not only has all the tools you need for any snake you keep, but they have the absolute best hooks on the market. What sets Animal Equipment by Stoney's hooks apart from the other guys is their polycarbonate hook ends that provide a warm feel that won't disturb or bother your retic, ensuring a positive interaction from the get-go. Since 2008, AE Stoney has been supplying zoos, herpetologists, and other animal professionals with their tools. It's time for you to step your hook game up and buy an AE Stoney hook. To learn more and purchase one of their amazing products, visit aestoney.com.
No, nothing burning on my mind.
Okay, let's jump in.
Hello.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, everybody.
What's going on?
I'm super pumped to be here, okay? I'm super pumped.
I'm excited to have you on. We've talked about this for a while now, and you know, I hit you up yesterday or the day before. Hey, you want to come on? And you were like, yeah, I'm down.
Yep. And it's funny because Nathan, I started following you on your personal page. You were one of the first people that I saw really do like a build for your lizard. It was your water monitor, I believe. You were doing lizards at the time. No,
I've never done lizards.
It wasn't lizards? Oh, okay. I thought I was following you with lizards on
Team Wishes.
Lucas knows I dream of tree monitors almost every single night, but
so maybe it was just the website that you were sharing stuff on. That's where I first saw you from. It was I think it was like the urban lizard page or something like that. It was some type of
I frequent the green tree monitor page quite a bit, so that might be it.
Yeah, but it was like, and then Lucas, it's weird. I never even noticed you until I guess about my second year that I was keeping Retics. And then it was a different voice. It was definitely a different look. Okay, when I say that was, it was that polished, professional. I'm like, okay, so I started following Lucas on Facebook first, and then it was just when y'all started the podcast, getting into the Super Dwarfs. It's one podcast y'all did I probably listened to 5 times. It was the one where you guys was talking about understanding the lineage, how y'all went into detail to even find the lineage. Probably one of the best Retic podcasts that I ever had listened to. And I was stuck. And here we go. I'm on a Retic Lounge, y'all.
Well, we're glad to have you.
That's a huge shout out. We're excited to have you on, though. I mean, beyond just having another female retic keeper on here, one of the things that we've always strived to do is build up a nice community in the retic space. And one thing that you've been able to accomplish pretty well in this is building a good community.
Yeah, and a lot of that is honestly isolating myself in my way of thinking. I will tell you, when I first got into this, it was a lot of reading. I read a lot. There was not a complete reticulated python book at that particular time. It was a complete ball python book. That's as close as you want to get to a complete book. There was one, it was several like smaller books. One of them was a book a guy out of UK had did. And I read that one.
Sid James, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So Sid James was on my podcast. It was Sid who was the first person who actually I felt like had a reticulated python book. But this was the crazy thing. When I first sat down with Sid, I'm thinking he had like hundreds of retics, like really, really was into it. He learned so much from me in that conversation. We was learning from each other, but it was his book that made me not afraid to own these animals.
Right.
I thought he was very transparent, but not scary, because at that time people were still using the word monster. I love the fact that people are not using that word anymore. It's a word that I asked over and over again. Can we change that about these animals? Because I don't have one monster in here. And the one monster I did have was a green tree python.
That sounds about right. That's funny.
From what I've heard from other keepers, they lack a few brain cells compared to retics sometimes.
They're not the brightest.
My husband, he doesn't do, he helps, he will buy all the snakes, build for him, all of that. He's not a snake person. So we got the green tree, and it actually made him not be afraid of the retics no more. He'll pick up a retic now. He was like, now that snake is something different. But it eventually calmed down, but it was still a snake that you had to be on point with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really, and I say this, and I want to say this carefully. There is not one reticulated python in here that I feel like I have to be on that much on point, like I had the green tree python. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but
no, I
do have a little different experience.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think that when you work with a limited number of retics and you establish that relationship with them, they're very predictable, and they're very easy to tell the mood that they're in, and they let you know. Chondros are a different world, and if the lights go out and you decide to open up a chondro cage, you better have food.
So when DMX passed away, it was, and I'm being honest. Normally, I cry for days if I lose an animal. And my husband was counting on me crying. I was like, you know what? I think he's in a better place. My husband looked at me and said, yeah, you wasn't that close to that.
He's finally at peace.
He's in a better place. I'm in a better place.
He is, I'm sure. And I would never. And so that was my experience. And I think that's the mistake some people make, right? I would never get another one. What I loved about it, it was a beautiful animal. It was very intriguing watching it at night on camera, because he would act like he did nothing all day, but at night that thing was doing
just they're all over the place.
Very intriguing. I love all of the different morphs that they have now, the designer morphs of them. But I am a person who, that's why I don't keep venomous. I like to hold my animals. I like to, treat them like pets, as I was saying to you, Luke. It's like I look at them, how I treat my dog is how my snakes are treated in some kind of way. Of course, let me take it back. There is 2 snakes who will follow me foot by foot in this house. And I don't know if other people, I know a couple other people experience this. My biggest one and the cow will follow me foot by foot like a dog, room by room. If I move, they move, just like that. And it's just those 2 who act that way, where they act like little puppies.
Right.
And I don't think that...
I love the nonchalant ludicrous quote right there. That you just like that just rolled off the tongue.
But
I am so sad I missed it.
Weird. It's so weird. And I'm not saying that it's weird. It's not, right? Because we always give them credit for being highly intelligent animals. And this goes to when I first started showing me handling them. There were so many men, very specifically, who would come on my post and say things like, the snake, that snake is going to do this one day, you're going to get yourself hurt, and all that type of stuff. So I'm going to go to who I am. I've been keeping snakes, ball pythons specifically, since 1992. I got my very first ball python in 92.
That's when I was born.
I was going to say. Same.
That's when I was born.
So this is the funny thing. When I'm on podcast and I say, I don't realize I'm as old as I am, okay? So
I would have never pegged you for
listen. When somebody say that, so in 1992, I was a grown woman. I was out of high school. Think my first or second year college. And so I'm proud though. I'll be 52 this year. 52 this June.
Awesome. I would have never guessed.
Yes.
I was thinking like 36, maybe.
So listen, People give me that all the time. And it cracks me up because it's people who like I look up to and admire, and I'm like, what? Like, you're that age? It just doesn't resonate with me that I'm that old. But I am the grandmother of almost 4. I will have my 4th grandchild in April, so
Awesome.
I'm up there.
Congrats.
But yeah, so I started keeping them back in 92. But my mother told the story best. I was a 5-year-old, 4-year-old. I grew up in a community in Baltimore City called Cherry Hill. Cherry Hill to this day is an island. It was a little community surrounded by water in woods. We hiked all day, every day. That's what we did. We went down, we crabbed. I literally can jump off my balcony, go in the woods, find snakes. I could find turtles. I could find possums, because I had a thing about possums when I was younger, which I would not touch a possum today. But back then, they were cool. In my head.
Possums are like they're so ugly, they're cute. Like, you gotta adore them.
They are really cute. And then at the time, when you're younger, you don't realize they could be rabid and stuff like that. So my mother always would crack up because I would stick stuff in my coat and bring them home. And she would be like, you got to get that out of here before your father come home. You got to get that out of here before your father come home. I used to take snakes. Y'all talk about bad husbandry. Take a mason jar and go collect snakes and put them in the mason jar. I'm talking 10 snakes in a mason jar about this big. And they lived for quite some time. Now, I understand why they didn't live for 5 years, but they would live for months in that mason jar before they actually, realized, okay, lady, we can't live in here forever. So
Right.
My bad husbandry days were when I was very, very young. And in 92, I still kept ball pythons in an aquarium. Successfully, though. Successfully in an aquarium. But I would say over the years, ball pythons will always be my passion, especially breeding. I breed more ball pythons, of course, than I do retics, because there are not people that I would want to keep, enough people that I would want to keep retics. My first retic clutch was in May 11th, 2023. It took me a year to sell her babies because I didn't just sell them to anybody. There were people in Morph Market just totally upset because I would ask questions, about keeping. And one of the things that is big to me even to this day, what people don't realize, a trigger for me is when they say, well, I had retics before, but I had to rehome all of them. I get shit happens. And oops, I'm sorry. I get things happen in life.
Yeah. This is a safe space.
Okay?
You can say what you want.
Happen in life. But I don't want my animals going to someone who is so okay with rehoming.
Right.
That's like, and I think of even when there's been times that I have been sick. Like I had a major surgery. It was a time that I was paralyzed because I got bit by a dog for 6 months in his arm. Never did I think to rehome my animals. So that's a turn off for me. And so I would say to people, why did you rehome? Now, some people were military, they couldn't take the snakes with them and stuff like that. So my question is, well, are you now, are you still active duty? Because I don't want the same thing to happen to my snakes. So one of the things that I love is every baby that I sold, I get to see whenever I want to see them. Most of them I get to see every day because I get tagged in the pictures and stuff, which I love. Please tag me all their lives, and you would never tag me enough of a baby that I created.
I tell people that all the time.
Right, because some people think they bought you. Like, I don't want to tag you and everything. If you take 50 pictures, I want 50.
Right.
And it's okay. And it's okay. So, and then got me some retics. 2019 is when I got the very first one. So I haven't been keeping retics long.
Before you kept the retics, so you obviously you grew up and you were keeping snakes in jars.
Yep.
You got into the ball python world. Any other species you kept prior to getting retics?
Ball pythons, and I went to boa constrictors, of course, because naturally, as people told you back then, you just can't go into keeping retics, right? You can't just go into keeping burns. I have a different opinion on that. We're going to come back to that. But I went to the boas. Now, to this day, I think you have to be more on point on a boa constrictor than you do a retic. I
Nathan,
mean, you know, we're talking about food response. Okay?
Nathan's face right now. Nathan has a trauma of getting bit by a boa.
Bit once? No, this thing, I cannot read a boa constrictor to save my damn life. And I just gave him back to the breeder because I was like, I cannot read his body language. I just keep donating blood. I'm good. I want a big snake, but this is not it.
Yeah. So, and it's funny you say that because I will tell you the only animal that was hard for me to like tame down was a boa constrictor. It was my pastel dream monster tail. He was something else. And when I mean something else, my husband was looking at me like, why do you handle this one like this? Like but you don't understand. To this day, I don't use hooks for 60% of my retics. But every boa that I have, before I go in there, it gets tapped. You have never seen me just put my hand in a boa cage. No one is not on video. I never said I did. I would never. Because to me, right now there's food thrown in that other room. I can let every last one of these retics out. They will not act any different. But those boas are going to find the food. They already know it's there. They're waiting for me to bring it. And if I go there and do not pay attention to where that boa at, for sure, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it.
That's good perspective. It's been a long time since I've kept a boa. I kept an Argentine when I was younger, probably like 12 years old. And I remember the snake never bit me, but man, every time I went to hold it, it would just have its mouth open and hiss at me. Every time.
There's nothing more intimidating than that either. Like
exactly.
Their vocals are insane.
It's insane. And people talk about a vocal berm. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
And berms are only vocal typically as babies. Like they grow out of that being vocal. Retics are not vocal at all. Normally you just watching body language. If I'm going to strike, a retic is going to give you a warning for the most part. I'm with you, Nathan. Boas, you're not reading it. They can go literally from hey to.
Yep, that's about the last bite I took. Left 6 teeth in me. A couple of them were in for like 5 weeks, and cutting hair with teeth in your fingers, not the most fun.
It's funny we talk about boas because anacondas are in that family, and they're known for just like chilling on you, having a good time, and then wham, they catch you at a weird angle and just bite you. So
my best friend in the reptile community has an anaconda, and I laugh so hard because he gets bit all the time, and to the point, and she's bigger now, and I'm like, you act like you don't feel it. He's so used to it, and she literally, he can be holding it, and she'll do it multiple times. Like it's not like a one bite. Oh, I'm sorry. No, she'll do it multiple times. So I have no anacondas for 2 reasons. That reason, he made me never want one. Just watching him and her. And the fact that I believe, although we give these retics big water sources, anacondas really need big water sources like the water monitor does.
Yeah, I think anaconda's enclosure needs to be 60-40 water.
So that's my theory. So I feel like people always talk about us keeping retics in smaller, enclosures and stuff like that, which I think that, for the most part, we keep them in very big enclosures for the space that they're actually going to use. And we'll talk about that. But the anaconda to me really needs the same size tub that I have the water monitor in, because they do swim to that level. A retic more like wants to just get in there, submerge, prepare for shed every now and then, maybe poop, pee in the water every now and then. They don't do a lot of swimming, in it like the anaconda even eats. His anaconda eats in that water.
Oh yeah,
you feed that anaconda in the water. So
yeah,
definitely different. So yes, I went to the boas. I always had like 1 or 2 corn snakes. Now I only have 1 corn snake. And then, of course, the lizard, the water monitors and the tagles, and then, of course, the retics. So, which in my opinion, and I wish I had, just went straight into retics. Because the 5 boas I have, I love them. And I let them come out, but it's not the same fun that I have when the retics are out. You know what I mean? So 5 boas crawling around is not the same. The thumbnail to this episode says best
pet snake ever ? And I'm going to be honest, like Retics, like if we're talking about just behavior, right? Like just behavior and how much they interact with us and how much of a joy they are to like handle. Yeah. Best pet python that you can have. Now, obviously food response, size, like there's other variables, right? But like genuinely speaking, when we're talking about the interaction that you can have with a retic, in my opinion, outperforms any other snake. Unless you're a thrill seeker and you want to free handle hots, right? Like exactly. I would say a king cobra probably more rewarding if you don't get bit, right? That's cool, right? But if we're talking about just like, you know, I think that's a whole different ball game, right?
Where you can actually get bit and just go to the hospital in the worst case scenario instead of not being here at all. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But it's the intelligence thing, right? So that's what I play on. So where most people will say it's a snake, it can't do this and it can't do that. And I have a vet that absolutely adores what I do with these animals. And I'll tell a story about the cow. And he really, 2 years ago, made me realize that, now I'm no Lori Tarini. I don't have the science behind what I do. So I'm not going to sit here in front that I studied the intricate mind of a reptile. But my experience has taught me so much.
We also want to thank VivTech Products for being an affiliate sponsor of the Retic Lounge. Stop by VivTech Products for the best UV spectrum lighting on the market that will enhance and improve your snake's overall well-being and health. Visit vivtechproducts.com and use the code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off. Again, visit vivtechproducts.com and use our affiliate code ReticLounge23 today for 15% off. Looking for the perfect accessories for your hatchlings or juvenile retics? Look no further than Heli Guy Serpents. Our sponsor, Chris Sexton, is coming in hot with an amazing 3D printer, creating top-notch perches and other caging accessories for your beloved pets. Enrich your Retics environment with their high-quality products. Use our promo code TRL10 for a 10% discount on your purchase. Visit them today at heliguyserpents.com and start giving your pets the best. Heli Guy Serpents, the premier source for 3D printed caging accessories. Again, that's www.heliguyserpents.com and use our promo code TRL10 for 10% off all of your 3D printed accessories today.
With how far we can go with these reticulated pythons mine. So tell a quick story about the cow, and this is something that you're all going to see eventually, because I want to put this in a video form, but I want it to be like a long form, because it was probably for me the greatest eye opener to stop holding on to everything that you think you've learned about these animals, everything that people taught you. Start documenting some of this stuff for yourself. You don't have to be a doctor, Nicole. You know, like, because in my mind, you know, that's what doctors are supposed to do for these things. That's what vets do. No, you keep them. Start documenting everything. So I started writing down every single thing.
Yeah.
So the cow I got from Nerd in April 2021. October 2021, I thought for sure this snake had a respiratory infection, right? I mean, to the point that I took him to, and it's $250 every time I take him to the vet. To the point that the vet was like, when you bring that snake back in here, it's not a respiratory infection. We got to figure out what it is. But girl, it's not that. I done tested it, blood. I even went to down the road. Maybe it's cancer, but it's not respiratory infection. So October 2021, thought it was a respiratory infection. Her mouth had became swollen on its side. Now, I've never had a pushing snake before. So pushing wasn't a thought in my mind in this scenario. So I'm just talking about my experience, right? So at this point, I never had a snake that pushed. She's breathing funny. It's a RI. That's it.
Right, exactly. I hear them. That's the most common thing you see on like a retic page is like, does my retic have an RI? And you hear the heavy breathing.
And I get the heavy breathing because, you know, the bigger ones, they do it a lot, right? But this particular snake wasn't even big yet, right? So Get her to the vet. The vet said, don't you bring her back here for no RI. We're going to start testing her for other things. It wasn't mouth rot. Like all the things that I think I know. It got to be mouth rot. I'm running it all down. I'm in the vet telling him what it is. But he's doing the test behind it. And I'm telling you, I spent between, as my vet said, unnecessary medicine for the animal, about a good $1,800 before I accepted the fact it was just she didn't like her husbandry.
She was pushing.
She was listen, but I never saw her push. So this is what he told me to do. Put the camera in her enclosure. He said, because you're missing something. Okay. So we put the camera in her enclosure. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm in a snake room. It's hot. Put the camera in her enclosure, and she was pushing. Bang! But I never saw it. So 2 years went by with all of this, me running her back and forth, because it will go away. Her swelling, she was shed, it will go away, and then it will come back. So,
yep, just blows up.
You know, so my experience there was, first of all, everything is not a respiratory infection. Another thing I learned, even with, not with my snakes, but I had a friend who had a snake who did have like a cold, and this is what the vet broke it down to. There are, just like us, it's the coronavirus and it's regular colds. Some snakes will get a regular cold, and it doesn't need medicine. It's going to literally go through the viral process and be fine, right? And then there's, of course, the level of RI that we need medicines for and stuff like that. So I just come to the terms that my vet, to me, is because I'm not a doctor. So I tell him I've learned a lot through him, but he's learned a lot through me too. Because they don't see 15-foot, 16-foot snakes enough to be able to properly treat them.
Most don't.
Yeah.
And he said, like even when he was giving medicine, well, we can try this medicine, we can try this medicine, but this is just a try. This is nothing that he knows for sure. This is it. We did the biopsy for the cancer. It wasn't cancer because I didn't even know a snake could have cancer in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Did the biopsy, and that was like $750 just the biopsy, small piece of tissue.
I mean, the vet got to learn a valuable lesson. Like, Retics push, and they messed their faces up.
Exactly. And the part that he said, too, because he asked me, is it husbandry? No.
No one wants to go that route.
Everybody else got. What do you mean? But I didn't know she was pushing at night. So, to this day, that snake is the snake that I talk about, that we leave out. So she likes to be out of that enclosure for 4 days. This is something different. No other snake in this house are allowed to do it. The last time she was out, she stayed out to the 5th day. And this is where we talk about their intelligence. She will not poop in that room.
That is insane.
She will not pee in that room. She will go 2 places. The closet, and then she got a little place where she goes hide, and it's a bin, and then she can go sit down in the bin. Stay there for days. All I do is close that door. I treat that room like it's my makeup room. Treat it like it's her enclosure. When she knows she needs something to drink, when she, for whatever reason, think, well, maybe I need to go and defecate or whatever it is, she finds herself coming out, and I leave that door open. You'll find her right back in that enclosure. We close the door. It's the most incredible thing. And we've been doing this. This has been a year and a half now. Like some people get, I post a little bit of it. This is a year and a half now. So it's not a fluke. She knows what she's doing. She knows the cycle of I eat, I sleep in this box, I'm going to poop, and then I want to be out in that room.
It's funny you mentioned this because I'm thinking of a Patreon member that we had that checked husbandry, had a small enclosure size, large enclosure size, did everything that you can possibly do to troubleshoot pushing, and it didn't help the snake. The snake would still constantly push. And I had to, at one point, I told him, I said, hey, I genuinely think his style of keeping was he would leave the door open, the snake would venture out into the room, would hang out, would do whatever, and then he'd get the snake and put it back in its enclosure, and what did it do? It pushed. And so, like, literally, that snake just wanted
Yeah.
more stimulation and to be out of that enclosure. And you know, that's the crazy part about retic intelligence that people don't realize. Not every retic is going to
She's the only one who would do that.
Very few far between retics are going to push because they want to be in the room instead of in their enclosure. The vast majority of retics are going to be very happy in their enclosure.
Yeah.
But you will get some that if you from a young age allow them to have freedom, right? They taste that freedom and there's no going back.
And there's no going back. And to what you said, Lucas, so I have 15, subadults to adults. No other snake. Now, I have a bunch of them that roam. None of them would ever want to be out their enclosure for 5 days. They get the same option, you know what I mean? They get the same option to go find that place if they wanted to. I would observe them the same exact way. So I think people would criticize me. One of the things people say, well, she's not getting her correct temperatures. You a lie. That room stays between 74 and 78. In her enclosure, you're never going to see her on her high side. None of my snakes have a high side more than 84 degrees. None of my retics.
Well, and you're only going to see them there when they're trying to digest a meal.
That's it.
That's what I'm saying. Like my garage is 84 at the warmest, but its average temperature around year round, the average of like an entire year is about 80, 81 degrees.
And this is the thing. The snake is smart. When she realizes she needs to warm her body up, I just told you, she comes out of wherever she's at and she goes back to her enclosure. So what I'm doing with these animals is they're teaching me that as a pet, I treat them as pets. Just like we let our Rottweilers, our Pit Bulls, our Staffordshire Terriers, whatever we have, figure life out. Like, your Rottweiler, he might like to dig holes. That makes him happy. It's a work dog, makes him happy. We have to look and see what individuals in these individual reticulated pythons what makes them happy. I have one reticulated python who never wants to come out her enclosure. You can take her out, but if you open that door, she'll watch every other retic go past her. But she ain't coming out on her own like that. And that's the Motley Tiger. It's not that she'll come to the lip of the enclosure and she'll sit there and watch all the other snakes, which that's another thing.
I got another snake. I got a retic that does that'll like won't bite, won't do the food response, no defensiveness, but like will just sit at the edge and it's just content there watching me.
That's it. And that's all she wants.
Nathan, that's your girl.
I have, well, one of that purple albino's other offspring from her first clutch. He's the same way. He acts like he wants out. You open up the enclosure, it's the one in the focus cube, and he'll just kind of sit there. Right. And I forgot about it to a point where I'm cleaning enclosures under him, and I come up and there's a retic right in my face.
I do that all the time.
Yep.
When you're not expecting it, it's not the greatest feeling.
Exactly. No, I'll always jump back, but what's funny is I'm met with a long tongue flick. Like,
so that's another thing. Touching the retics' tongues. People say you'll never be able to touch their faces. I can literally, my Motley Golden Child, she likes to play with me, with her. And I'm doing, it's a video, and you'll see her sticking me, we doing just like this. It's a game to her.
Is it on your Instagram?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube.
Oh,
so it's on my YouTube. She just will sit there and I think that's the caption, and you're not supposed to be able to touch their faces, but this animal chooses to play, and she does it it's like something she does repetitively, and it's a playful thing for her. It's like she knows, hey, this is what we do. So I'm observing their brains in a way where I always said snakes are probably more intelligent than humans anyway. That's why they lived on Earth longer. They survive all types of weather events. These retics tell me
we're
when
stupid.
It's going to snow.
The only advantage we have is thumbs.
Yep. They tell me when it's a storm coming. All of them act the exact same way, looking towards the same direction when some type of storm event or something's going to come. And I say to my husband, it's about to rain or something. And then hours later, you hear it. When I say living the dream, is living the dream in a way of, I feel like I'm in a jungle, right? I'm not in the jungle, but I'm in my own personal jungle. But I'm living with them. Mike from Herd Collectors, he said this, and I stick to this. It's stuck in my brain. He said, you don't keep retics, you raise them. And I know each one of them like I know each one of my children. I know their primary love languages. And I respect them each. So the Motley Tiger, y'all don't see her in a lot of videos and pictures because she doesn't like to, that's not her thing. She doesn't like the paparazzi. Then there's the other ones who, when they see the camera, they know what that means. It's like, oh, it's a show. Like, and they'll just come and go to the camera and look at, just stay on me. And if I'm talking to the camera, like on TikTok, they are into, with, curiosity as to who I'm talking to or what direction I'm talking to. I respect them all individually. And I think that anybody can keep a retic as a first-time keeper if you're willing to learn.
Yeah, just don't jump into an adult, probably, but yeah.
No, not an adult. I say anybody. You raise. So I don't believe
anyone can grow with a retic. I believe that firmly.
I don't want an adult retic. I tell people that all the time. Everyone that I have, I raise. And people have had like tragedies, and somebody will reach out to me, hey, will you take it? No, I'm not taking it somebody else's retic. I am never going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I also believe that one of the reasons why I won't rehome my animals is that the relationship I have with them is my relationship. It may not necessarily be the same exact relationship that it might have with you, Lucas. And on the flip side, I had one reticulated python that I sold. I told the customer, this is the most food aggressive one I have. You definitely got to tap train this one. That little thing get over there and act like it's not food defensive at all. I'm like, what in the world? Something about that environment might make it different. Maybe it was something here that it made them a little bit more defensive than others. Maybe it's because it was in a room with all these other snakes. It felt like it had to fight for the food. I don't know. But it goes to this customer, and till this day, she's never experienced what I told her she was going to experience.
I love that. That's great. Hey, she got more than what she paid for.
Right. But I like to be honest with people, and I'm like, no, I'm telling you. I even sent her a video of me feeding that snake here. Okay? So she knows that snake was a little food aggressive. But gets over there, she can literally just, and it takes it so soft, and I'm like, what in the world is going on here? So it's just like, I love observing the different behaviors.
I like that. So, I mean, I genuinely feel that, people ask me, like, how do you develop a relationship with your retic? How do you develop a relationship with your snake in general? Mm-hmm. And I tell people this, the number one thing that you need to be doing every single day is go in that snake room. Yep. Watch your snake. Just watch it. Yep. Watch it, even if the door's closed in their enclosure. Just watch it. Let them see you. You see them, and observe. Right. Yep. I mean, every single great philosopher that's ever existed gathered their philosophies of the world by observing. Right. And observation is such a powerful tool when it comes to understanding your animal, right? We talk about retics being very, very like visual in how they communicate a message or what they're trying to do. I'm curious, Nikki, when you're talking, so I want to hear a little bit more in detail, like the observations that you are witnessing and experiencing when you have these snakes free roaming, when they're out of their enclosure and they're doing it. Like what is it that you're seeing? Like the first thing that pops in my mind when you open up that room, are any of them going into food mode? Are they coming to you? I kind of want you to just break down like what, I don't know, pick like 2 or 3 snakes. You talked a lot about the cow, so maybe pick like 2 or 3 other retics and tell us what it's like when they're out there and they're roaming. What are you observing?
So, and it's a great point, and it's easy for me to do because the way these rooms are set up is based on personalities, believe it or not. So my oldest ones are in the room I'm sitting in. Those are the ones that I literally can open those enclosures. You're not going to get no response from it. Actually, all 3 of these in front of me, this is exactly what they're going to do. If I open the enclosure and they want to come out, they're going to just come out. The one right in front of me, Hefe, the one that people see the most, he's the largest.
Hefe. Is that the pied?
Hefe is going to beeline out of there.
Is that the
he
pied?
wants to be out, if he wants to come out. But if he doesn't want to come out, you're going to open that door. He's going to look at you. He'll come. And y'all see that. I show that on Instagram. He'll come out to the lift. I'll touch his face because he's in breeding mode right now. And he likes to be calmed down through touch. Through touch. The snake that you're not supposed to touch because it's in breeding mode, please touch them because that's what keeps them from arching. So I'll rub him and he'll go back in.
I wonder with that if it has something to do also with you being a female keeper, because I've heard with Retics. I truly
believe it does.
Yeah, because so I've seen some males get weird with me during breeding mode, but it's snake to snake. They all have different personalities when it comes to that time.
So I will say that none of them have never gotten where my son can't handle them or anything, but it's in the females as well. So the females are very, they come to him easy. They acknowledge him quicker. I think it's a pheromone thing. But yes, with the males in breeding mode, I prefer my son not to deal with them because I do notice that they'll be a little bit more archy with him or irritated with him, where with me, I don't get it at all. So I truly believe that, and I say that. I talk about it all the time. I think that it does know that I'm a female, and not just that, I'm the one who keeps them, because my son handles them just as much as I do. But in that particular mode, they prefer me. And for whatever reason. And my son he can do the same things, rub them and everything, is going to prefer me. Then going to the second room, that's where most of the sub-adults are. So they're probably like about 3-4-year-olds, right? None of them more than 12 feet. There's only one in that room that I would say, that's Maui, who will probably still have a food response, but not that you need a hook. You just got to move the door open and then move out the way.
Yep. Yeah, that's I like doing that. So a lot of I'm starting to do that now, where I'll open up and I'll take a few steps back and just let them think. And then if you give them 60 seconds,
they figure it out.
Yeah, you see the shift in their eyes and in their tongue where they're just like, oh, this, almost like they're saying to themselves, like, oh, this was anticlimactic, right? They're like, okay.
Right. It's definitely a difference. Now, my dwarf, the strongest food response in the house. The smallest snake is the one that I am not going in there without a hook. It's the dwarf. But she's a sweet snake.
I got a question. Mm-hmm. Is the feeding regimen the same as the other animals?
As far as the schedule?
Schedule and size.
Size, no.
Okay.
But the schedule.
Well, size appropriate to the size of the snake.
Okay.
Clearly, so you're not gonna feed a small animal a 4-foot or a 4-pound rabbit.
So size appropriate, yes. The timing though, I feed her more, of course, because she's not eating as big of a prey as the larger ones are. But for the most part, for her size and other animals her size, exact same feeding regimen. Okay. And it's just a full response, because once you turn it off, she's a sweetheart. You're not going to get her to be reactive at all outside of that.
Yeah.
But every other animal, including the burms, I don't have to turn off their feed response. Now, my burms have stronger feed response than my retics.
That's wild.
Have the 3 big ones. I tell you, if I put a rabbit in there, I can hold a rabbit in my hand and hold one of them. It's not going to budge, the 3. It will not take that rabbit out of my hand. It's not going to freak out and say, ooh, go into food mode or anything.
You're talking about your retics?
My retics.
What the hell?
Yes. And that's what I got lives. I have live clips that you will see that. I can hold that rabbit. In their minds, though, I think they're trying to protect me. Because even if I put the rabbit in the enclosure, they won't eat it until I leave the room. The camera will show you the moment I leave the room, they will get on that food. So in my brain, I think they know that eating is intense and I need you out the way, in their brain. Go into that other room, it's not the same. Once I put the food in there, get out of their way, because now we are in food mode. We don't care about you, lady, if you get in the way.
Right.
This is going to go down. But my big 3, I literally, I could be feeding other snakes, and and the snakes are just out. And people ask all the time, like, oh my God, you got a rabbit, but you know who taught me that? that you could do that was when I visited Nerd. So when I first got Retics, it's a real story. Someone told me don't eat around them, like literally, like you can't have dinner or, anything. So I'm like, oh shit. So I got to be careful. So I get the Nerd, and he's in there feeding all of these big Retics, and with Retics out. And I'm like, oh my God, like you're feeding them, like I don't even eat a hamburger around him. And Kevin busts out laughing. He said, what?
Yeah, that's a new one. I haven't heard that yet.
I've never heard that either. You can't eat around them. Like, what, that Retic's going to be like, give me those fries.
That's true. That's true food motivation.
And listen, Lucas, this is from seasoned people. You know what I mean? Like, these are people who, like, I'm like, okay. So Kevin said, look, you can have a regular meal around them all day if you want to. He said, but these animals know that where they eat. So the bigger ones that was out, when he put the food in there, they will go to the food. So again, I wasn't ready to try it, but I was like, okay, it lets me know that this is possible. So as these snakes got bigger and older and I started to observe them more, I noticed that they just don't react that way. So what I do, knowing that I do things like that repetitively, so they are always that way. I had someone come visit one time, and I was showing Sean. I said, Sean, watch this, and it amazed them. Like these animals just don't react to the food. I can have food thrown out there. I have Retics who will literally know it's there, sit there, wiggle his tongue, but still waiting for me to give it to them. Like it will sit there like it knows it's there, but it's not reacting to it. But then I have those that I would never try that with, so and not saying never. They haven't graduated to that level. And
right. I mean, they're only like 3 or 4 years old, right? They still got...
Exactly. I'm not crazy, okay? I don't be over here, and I tell people all the time, when you see me doing things, I have tested it, trusted, and approved that this works and no one gets hurt. Especially if I do it on camera. I don't do anything on camera that could be iffy. Like, I'm not going to go in there and test this theory with an animal that I know probably is going to jump on that rabbit on camera.
Right.
But those big 3, the reason why y'all see me showing that stuff so much, I know them in and out, and they're just not going to respond to the food.
Nikki, I am going to dissect your YouTube channel.
Yes,
the moment that we hop off this recording. I'm going to be honest. We've talked a little bit about this before when we were on Gary's place, and and I'm aware that like you've let snakes like free roam and everything, but like the behavior that you are describing, this is a first for me. Nathan, I don't know if you've ever...
No, wait till you see the blanket.
Right.
Oh, geez. What do you mean? Do you have it pulled up or something?
No. I mean, I've gone through the Instagram. I need to go through the YouTube. I know it's there. I just haven't had the time to sit down and watch them.
If you don't mind, if you're able to pull up your Instagram and just find some,
I'll find it.
Just find some crazy shit that like I need a visual on this right now because listen, here's one thing that I like to make sure that I don't do, right? We as humans have an emotional palate that no other species in the world has, right? And I'm not saying that we have a greater emotional intelligence than other species, but we are able to communicate emotions in a way that animals cannot, right?
Absolutely.
Now, with humans and other animals, there's the typical fight, flight, freeze. There's food mode. There's the typical survival instincts that every animal has. So I do my best to not anthropomorphize these animals. However, being a human, humans are designed to always try to understand why things happen the way that they do. Because if humans have an understanding of why, we can keep ourselves safe, we can protect ourselves, we feel more in control. That's a biological and innate process for humans. We always have to understand the why. So when we're trying to understand the why for these animals, oftentimes we use human thoughts. Human thoughts and human emotions to try to explain what we're seeing. And And here's the thing is like, I think what you are doing right now, what you're saying, like a lot of people can think and stop and say, I think this is anthropomorphizing. But at the end of the day, like when you are observing this over and over and over again, and these are things that go completely against the grain of keeping reticulated pythons. It's, you know, for me, I'm over here a little dumbfounded. I'm shocked, right? Like, I mean, I know that retics can free roam. I'm not closed off to that idea. I know retics can understand the difference between their keeper and someone else. What blows my mind is that your retics are not responding to food, because that is what retics do.
Right. So, and again, that's what, if I wasn't experiencing this, right, that's what I always thought. But these particular three, for whatever reason, they're just, the blanket is a real story, okay? So she will pull that blanket down on her. So I have to literally, when she goes
I love how she gives you those bumps, and she's like, "Leave me alone, let me sleep."
She's like, "Tuck me back in."
And she's just sitting in a basket right on and it's in my makeup room right now. That's probably like the 4th or 5th day she was out in that video. And as you can just move the blanket, she's been there overnight at that particular point. That's some early morning, and I'm just checking on her.
Like, hey, let me just check and make sure you're alive before I go to work.
My favorite is like you talking about like she pulls that blanket down. You're like, I'm waiting to get the video like when she pulls the blanket down on top of her.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like, honestly, if I was you, I would have a Wise camera in every corner of every room, and I would be paying that $10 a month for playback and storage. So
I have them everywhere, and I have the playbacks and the storage. What I don't have is in that particular room, and we're going to put one in the closet, because what we do want to see is what she does in the closet. Because for me, for that snake to stay in a closet, because that's like an enclosure, for 4 days and not move, because it looks like that to me, like she didn't move. I think she moves, we just don't see it, you know, because she doesn't come out.
Same with the green tree pythons, right? You don't see them move, but then when you look at them at night, they're literally doing circles around their enclosure.
So I have a question about the closet. How does she get in, or is it just always open?
So I leave it because, again, just helping her.
That's her room, Nathan.
It's her, yeah. So I leave it cracked. Now, it's not open, it's cracked. Just enough for her to get in there and open it and go in there to let me know she's in there.
Okay.
The same thing with that basket that you just saw her in. It's on that rack, it's like 8 baskets. That's that basket right there is the highest basket, and she goes in that basket. So we have to take the blanket to her because she looks for that blanket. So we take the blanket to her and throw it over. If she's on the floor, if she can, like even sometimes she'll take that blanket and you'll see her like try to put it over her or hide under it a little bit more.
Is that her head on the other side of the blanket? Or is that
that's
just
probably her nose?
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably her nose. But yeah, she's always in this room. I'll do makeup lives all the time because I'm a brand ambassador for a company called Ducky Cosmetics. And I'll be doing a video. And
is that why your makeup's always on
is
point?
That a snake behind you? I totally forget she's in the room. Like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's my cat. She's always in here. But I forget she's in there because she's so quiet. She doesn't knock anything over. She finds a clear path to get from one side, because the closet is on the other side. So she'll come down, go back into that closet, come out. Now, where she is a window. So I do believe that positioning gives her access to light that makes her comfortable too.
Yeah.
So that's why she comes out of the dark closet and go up high, because she can go, it's 4 racks. She can go to the lower rack. She always go high.
Yeah,
she's really starting to remind me of like Lyle from Peanuts, walking around with his blanket all the time.
It's everywhere with her because she loves that blanket. I don't know why.
The only thing that I can think of right now is you doing these makeup tutorials on TikTok and women messaging you there's a snake behind you, like freaking out.
It's so funny. People are like, is that? And then she doesn't, because a cow doesn't. I mean, we know what a cow is, right? To other people, it doesn't look like a real snake, So they're looking like, is that a snake behind you? Because it moves like one,
right?
But it can be. So yeah, it's just that's to me. Experiencing this with the cow is the most incredible animal experience that I'm having.
Oh,
so
no
that
kidding.
is going to be a book, y'all. That's going to be a short form book when I get it, finished, because I want to document it like 2 years of it. I want to see how she, continues. Do she get even more innovative in the room? You know what I mean? Like we noticed that she, like I said, she has a clear path. It's stuff everywhere, stuff on the walls in that room. It's a whole makeup room. It's stage for recording. She will not knock stuff off the walls or anything. If I take another snake up there, they knocking everything over. The Siri,
literally
the all of that, the computers, all of that's getting knocked over. She knows a clear path. So okay,
she's like a cat.
Over. I know how to get here without hurting myself. And it's just
so
incredible.
crazy.
It's incredible. It's so incredible. It brings tears to my eyes, y'all, when I see it. Like, and even for my husband is intrigued by it. He will go in there and just check on her, and he'll touch it. That's one of the ones he'll touch because he feels like she's like part of the family because she's always out. She's always in every room. He has no intimidation factor to that particular snake at all. But in reality, if there was a snake that was going to bite him, it would be her. She's one of the most moody snakes. Now, she's not going to just bite. I'm not going to say that. But you have to watch her. The bump. You just saw it. The bump. That will scare the crap out of people. I just know that if she's bumping and she's not moving her head, it's just like you said. Can you please just let me continue what I was doing?
Turn the lights off, please. Leave me alone.
Yep, I'm minding my business, and you're in here. But to my husband, that bump would make him run way out of there real fast if she did that. So yeah, that is intriguing. And the golden child. So I documented her first birth. We documented this one as well. And one of the things, and I think I talked about this on the last thing we were on together, Lucas, is that there was no breeding information when I first started breeding. None on YouTube. We're starting to see a lot now because we got the Retic Lounge and, other people who understand the importance of putting these animals and the knowledge that we need behind them out there in a positive light. The golden child cow, the Molly golden child Sunfire, when she had her first set of babies, I noticed the day before she laid, she wanted to come out. I could see her on the camera. She wanted to come out. Now I'm like, okay. But I opened the door and she came out and she roamed, went back in her enclosure. Next day she had the babies. She did the same exact thing.
She looked for a laying spot and she's like, not my enclosure's the safest place.
And go. This time she came out and she was breathing in labor. Like I never seen it the last time. She was you can hear her like, breathing. She stood out all night. And she doesn't stay in her enclosure all night. She stayed out all night, went back in that morning and began to lay the eggs. So that's something else that I'm documenting and I'm watching. So two things that I learned with my breeding process. Female snakes lose their mucus plug just like a woman does within a week or two before that they lay the egg. So look for it. You're going to see a mucus plug in that enclosure. She did it both times, and the babies came literally within 10 days after she lost her mucus plug. The other thing, that roaming piece that I talk about, y'all, if you got wives and you got women right before we give birth, we get this burst of energy. We want to clean a room. We want to take nesting. A long walk or something. The snakes do the same thing. And putting that, like we talk about, you don't want to, say, snakes are different, they're not human. But biologically, holding those eggs, pushing out a baby or pushing out babies is very similar. And so the breathing, the pressure on the lungs, human females, we experience that. What helps us with that is walking. Well, our snakes can't walk, so they crawl. So I believe that she came out the day before. She had way more eggs. Well, not way more. She had 10 10 more eggs than she did the last time. So she has more eggs in her this time than before. So that breathing thing that I didn't see the first time when she came out, I saw this time. It was literally like, you can hear her. And then she went off, she rested, went back to her enclosure, and the next morning started dropping those eggs. These are things that, first of all, I'm grateful I was able to retire early, August of 2022, so I get to see these animals full time. So I get to sit, document, and that's all I do. I have, thank God to my husband, all you need to do is focus on what you're doing, you know, and that's what I do. And so I think that I get to see, like, maybe the snake needing to roam people don't see because you're at work, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe because people have 100 breeders, you know what I mean? They can't focus on just that one female. I never have more than one female grabbed at the same time. I'm intentional with that. Like, it's not going to happen unless she retains sperm from the last, you know, clutch, and I have no control. But I intentionally never have a female grab it at the same time because I want to watch every single thing about that snake during that process, including how some people say snakes will stop eating. Well, she didn't stop eating this last time until like the last 3 weeks before she had the baby. She wanted a rabbit. I gave it to her. You know, I was feeding everybody else. She was very alert to the food. I'm like,
How was her clutch? Did the clutch were there
perfect?
Damn.
32 eggs. Even her first clutch was perfect though. Her first clutch was 22 eggs. She had a couple twins. I think we had one that went bad in the incubator, but this one, nothing gone bad in the incubator or anything.
You know what's funny is I'm over here, Nathan. I'm thinking like, let me ask Nikki, like, what are her like husbandry parameters in order to get them to cycle? And I don't know how to ask that because I feel like they're free roaming.
Right. So,
like
perfect example.
How do you get them to cycle when they're not in an enclosure?
They figure it out. So I noticed that the male tells me which female is cycling. The male. So I keep my males and I don't separate them. You know, some people have all males in one room. No, mine's are separated by age. So all of the older ones, the ones that I got in that first year, they're all in one room. The ones that came in year 2 and 3, that's how they're separated. So the male tells me which female is cycling because he will try to go to her and she'll try to come to him. Very particular, them two, they cycle way more. The female cycles way more than we think. Like, she literally just laid. The last time she laid, you can tell that she was cycling again no more than, it wasn't even 4 months after she had the last clutch. So I had to keep them apart because how we had the first clutch in the first page, I didn't put them together the first time. I put them together this time. The first time they put themselves together. And they locked within 30 seconds. Seriously. And then I said, I told my husband, like, oh my God, baby, they locked. He was like, well, what do you want me to do? We ain't going to pull them apart. I had never seen, because ball pythons, you put them in an enclosure. You got to keep peeking to see if they lock. You got to keep peeking.
Yeah.
Nathan
and I are ball python breeders by accident. over at Phil's place. Like, we literally, like, there's a year where, like, one of Phil's ball pythons was just wrapping up a water bowl, and we're like, let's stick a male in. We stick a male in, we check in 10 minutes later, and they're locked, and it's like, all right, done deal.
Did anything come of it, though?
They locked in 30 seconds. It was like, he went in there, and it was so funny, because you have a retic and glide, he just glided on in there. And literally, she did her little thing with her tail, and something went, that was it. I couldn't even stop it. So that's how and then that was the first time that they locked, and so she had gotten pregnant the very first time that they locked. This time, I paired her with two different males because I wanted to be I want some double heads, so I wanted the tiger pod to go to her, and then I paired her to the same male that she went to before. But she very much welcomed him in. The tiger pod knew she was cycling. He looked down at her cage. She let him in, and then they just, I never had, like, I would love to say that I did some intense temperature adjustments, and I've done none of that.
You asked Nikki how to breathe. She says, "Let your snake free roam. They'll figure it out."
Free roam. They know who the hot girl is.
And hold on, but wait, hold up. So I think there's something actually here that I want to highlight and make a point on. Because I think that like we always overdo it with the heat with retics. I think that even successful breeders are still overdoing it, because I have snakes that are putting out perfect clutches, and at nighttime it's 78 degrees, daytime it's 82 degrees, and I'm not giving them any hot spot. So you remind me, what did you say your hot spot was at inside that enclosure?
So her hot spot is only 82. The highest hot spot in this house is 84 for retics. No retic has more than 84 degree hot spot. They don't want it.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, and a lot of people are like, hey, like when your snake is gestating, when your retic is gestating and has eggs inside of them, like you need to give it like 88 degrees. And I've always been like, no, you don't. Like here's the thing is people are impatient. And what happens is the higher the temperature, whether it's incubation or it's in their enclosure when they're gestating, the sooner the eggs come out and the sooner the babies hatch. But I guarantee one of these days, one of these seasons, I am going to incubate. I'm going to incubate my retic eggs in my ambient room temperature in my garage. I'm going to let those eggs get down to 78 at night. I'm going to let them get up to 82, 83 during the day. And I guarantee you those animals will hatch out. It might take 110 days, but they're going to hatch out.
Well, I will tell you, most of the time, even this time, she didn't spend a lot of time on her hot side at all. I think it was like the last 2 weeks. You can see her go over there for a day, come off it, go over there for a day. And like the last maybe 3 days, she stayed on her hot side. She didn't spend a lot of time on her hot side at all this particular time around.
That's wild.
I'm convinced that retics would like temperatures even as low as 70. I'm convinced, and I think that's why the cow, we talked about husbandry, she has a hot spot of 80. I've never took hers because we adjusted her down from the 84 to the 80.
How are you measuring the hot spot? Are you using a temp gun?
So I use the temp gun.
And it's 80 with the temp gun?
Yeah. So
this is fascinating.
I have the temp gun, so you can get right there. So what I try to do is give them in each enclosure 3 gradient spots. So if you got 84 here, it's 80 there, and then on that far side it's going to be at least 7 to 10 degrees lower than what your highest point is. But I promise you, every retic I have sits on that the lowest side they can get to.
I mean, and that's why, let me ask you this. Do you remember when your cow was pushing, what temperatures did you have it at?
It was higher. So we bumped it. So it was 84 in her hot spot. We bumped it down to 80. That still wasn't good enough. The room that I talk about, the closet, it has to be like 74 in that closet. It's my makeup room. And she probably get about 78 when she goes near the window. But in that closet that she's in, it's a cool room,
That is wild.
And she will stay there for days. So that's the point when someone said, well, she's not getting the correct temperatures. Her enclosure door is still open. She knew how she got up here. She know how to get back. I see it. On the 5th day, she'll go back. It's not a thing of it's to this or to that when she knows how to get to the temps that she wanted. And then even if that was the case, and that's upstairs in that same place, there's another room that has a bigger window that will be warmer. She would pick that room in if she wanted to. Why my room? You know what I'm saying? She knows what she's doing. And that's the thing where I get aggravated when trying to explain to people. First of all, my cow is probably my most expensive retic that I ever purchased. And I purchased her before, the prices went down. You see what I'm saying?
And not only that, but
that's why I want to make one.
I'm not going to risk her life.
Yeah, back in 2020, 2021 is when cows were hot. Like everyone wanted one.
And mine came from Nerd. So it wasn't just a little coin. So I tell people, if I'm gonna risk a snake life, I wouldn't pick the cow, the most expensive one, to see what happens. No, she figured life out for herself. What I had to do was listen, because as a keeper, I think what happens is we say, just like some people say, a retic needs a whole room. Well, I do know I have one who probably needs a whole one 5 days.
Yep.
in a row, you know.
Yep.
But I don't have any other ones who would prefer that. You know what I'm saying? So I do definitely agree when that argument comes up. Yes, there are some retics, because I have 1 out of 15 who needs a whole room. But if I have only 1 out of 15, I can guarantee you most retics don't need a whole room. And I don't know what it is about this particular retic that makes her want to, you know.
Well, here's the thing as well. Like, she'll free roam, right? And she goes around, but like when you find her, she's generally coiled up in a tiny little basket.
Absolutely.
With a
in
towel.
a little basket.
Right.
For a long time.
Right. Now what I will say is I don't want to make that statement and people think that I agree that retics can be in these tiny enclosures. I don't agree to that, right? We need to give them the most that we can possibly. And, you know, and I'm even on the, like, if your enclosure was 6 to 8 feet long.
Her enclosure is 8 by 3 by 3. The one that she doesn't want to be in.
That's big to most retic standards. 8 by 3, but no one's giving the retic 3 foot.
And she's
tall.
not as big as most of my other ones who are in the same enclosure. You know what I'm saying? She's not a big retic considering.
Yeah.
You know? She's only probably about 13 feet at best.
Who's your biggest? Is that your pied?
Hefe. Hefe is every bit of 100 pounds, I believe now, and he's 17 feet, and he's a male.
What is he?
A male who's not supposed to get more than 16 feet. That's something else I was told.
What is he?
Males won't get no more than 16 feet, even if it's a mainland. They will only get that big if you have him for 35 years. This man is 17 feet
He's
easily.
a grown-ass man. Here's the thing. I mean, I have my own thoughts on that. And Nathan, I'm curious what yours are, but you know, people talk about like males being smaller than females. I think the only reason why male retics are much smaller than female retics in captivity is because people feed their females to get them to breed. People don't feed their males the same way. But Wolfgang has showed pictures of 18 to 20 foot males. Easy, right? Males get very large if they live long enough and you feed them the way that they can eat.
They get a cool different body structure too. Like my 7 foot male probably has a bigger head than my 10, 11 foot biggest female here.
I think his girth is different from my female. He's way bigger than the female he breeds with, and they're the same. I believe they were born like in the same clutch. Mm-hmm. And he is like much stronger and round. She's a lot thinner and long. You know, not as long as he is, but she looks longer because she's leaner.
Right.
But they eat the same. So I never change. I don't feed my females, the breeding females, more than the males. They eat on the same cycle. So if I feed one rabbit every 4 to 6 weeks, that's what female and male get at that particular age point. You know what I mean? What
morph is that male? What is he?
He is a Mochino Motley.
Mochino Motley. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mochino or Mocha, I believe, is Sumatran.
Mocha and albino.
Yeah, and albino, I think, came from Sumatra. Yeah, I mean, it's got big genetics packed into it.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is that I thought growing up together, the Molly Golden Child Sunfire, she got 10 feet in 1 year. 1 year, she was 10 feet. Damn. He was only like about 8, 9, but then the second year, just went past her. You know, no changing in feedings. They fed the same way. And that's another thing. I have a purple sunfire who's no bigger than my dwarf. And she's probably never going to she's supposed to be a mainland. I'm totally convinced she has to have something in her, you know, something that's keeping her smaller in her blood. But this whole thought that every mainland is going to get 16 plus feet.
No,
she
not true.
Is the same size as that dwarf retic, and she's older.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I observe. I don't try to get every snake to a certain size. You get fed the same cycle as everybody else, age appropriately. And if you stop growing, you don't go to a 12-pound rabbit. You know what I mean? You just stay on bunnies or whatever the case.
I got a challenge for you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk. We're gonna strike a deal.
Okay.
I want you to take one of my F1 or F2 pure locality animals, and I want you to try this free roam thing out
and see how it works.
And see what's the difference between an F1, F2 that's like 1 or 2 generations removed from the wild versus the mainlands that probably are 10 to 14 generations, deep.
Exactly.
Well, I want to work something out. If you got room for another retic, I know that you're very particular.
I would definitely have to make the room.
And I know that you're particular. I know that you like to keep your animals a certain way. So if it works out, please let me know. We'll make something work. I would love to see how that happens. I would be interested to do that.
I would definitely want I like custom enclosures for them, and based on what you tell me, like that animal likes, because everybody don't have a platform in here. There are some who like platforms, some who don't. The ones who love platforms, you put a platform in the enclosure. So that's another thing. What they do on the outside, and talk about their cow. She doesn't have a platform, right? She probably is one when I make her 8 by, because I do think that eventually she needs to be like, I have one that has a 10 by 4 by 4 enclosure. I think that's probably, even though she's a smaller snake,
10 by
she
4
probably
by 4.
wants that.
That's incredible.
So this is the thing. Before COVID or right around COVID, these enclosures were so much cheaper. I was able to get a 10 by 4 by 4 by Cryptic Creations. I think I paid $1,200 for that.
Shut the hell
That
up.
same enclosure is going to run you every bit about $4,500 plus today.
Easy.
So what I did was when I first got into Retics, I bought like 7 enclosures up front before I even had the snakes. And I was just grateful that I did, though, because if I waited, I would not have been able to do these this way. I wouldn't.
That is wild.
I couldn't afford to get.
Nathan, it's going to cost you for your what is it? Your 4 by 3 by 2 monitor enclosure?
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it.
I
don't know that I have the space. I mean, unless I get no more retics.
Hold on.
I would actually have to sell retics.
Living room. We've talked about this. Your cats are going to be fine. Your cats
are
going to be fine.
The only free room on this level, Nathan, is the kitchen. Everything else is retics.
Right. You want to know what's funny? Before I opened up the lab, my garage, I used to have my snakes in the kitchen.
Listen. Look, the room I'm in now used to be our formal dining room, okay? And so I can remember the day my husband came home and I literally had people moving the dining room furniture out. He was like, I said, babe, it's even that on the man cave. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And he will not let me bring snakes down there, so.
Nah, he better stand that ground. I'll back him on that. He needs
One
his space.
of the pictures you have, I'm literally, it's New Year's Eve, and he let me bring a snake in the man cave. I'm on the pool table. So he taking pictures with the snake. That's probably the only time that I'm able to take a snake down there was that New Year's Eve. And he was down there. We was playing, having a good time. But he will not. And ideally, that man cave would be the perfect. I could give all these rooms back. That man cave is huge. There's only him down there. That's the perfect place, even his bathroom and everything, for me to set up different plumbing situations. Like, I had a hope. He will not give it up. Like, he was like, we bought this house. You wanted the kitchen, and you wanted that master bath. I only wanted a man cave, and there will be no snakes in here. None. If he let me have that, I would have so many more retics. Oh my God.
Jeez. Nikki, I want to ask you kind of one more question that's I'm sure it's going to be a longer response, and that's why I want to make this kind of one of the last questions, unless Nathan has something else before we wrap up. But so what I'm imagining some of our listeners are going to be thinking to themselves, it's like, well, she has something special. I can't do what she's doing. My snakes can't be like that. So can you please, like, if you were to give a brief, I mean, even if it's 10 minutes, I don't care, but can you, like, how does one attempt to do what you are doing in order to build this type of connection and relationship with the because if there's any python in the world that I think people can do this with, it's going to be a retic.
It's a retic.
But so I'm curious, like, what is it that you would like? How would you? I guess, like, how would you mentor or guide someone from the time that they're a baby to the time that they are 7 years old? Like, what is it that you're looking for and trying to do and accomplish?
So, great question, and this is something that I share with my customers because I give my customers the map to keep, because most people come to me as customers because they see my animals and see how I am with them. And so, first of all, no, I am not exceptional. People used to try to make me think that I was doing something special. It's not. I will say this. It's the time you put in, and everything that you want out of the animal start from when they're young. So when my babies hatch, the food situation, this is in my back side of the YouTube, so you can't see this. On the private side of my YouTube, where my memberships are, you'll see as babies, I got a handful of Retics and I got a handful of rats. And I'm literally holding the rats and the Retics in my hand. I don't want them to respond. I want to see what they want to do. I posted that video. The people who are members, they see it. It's unbelievable. You'll see the babies not even reacting. These are babies who are already eating. So now, out of her last clutch, out of the 22, I got 18 of those Retics to not go for the food without me literally putting them in the enclosure and giving it to them as babies. So when I started breeding, I started doing everything from babies. So what I would say to a customer, you're not getting it as a baby. So whoever you're getting it from, you want to ask this question: how often is it handled? Because I truly believe that a baby that's handled, even for just 10 minutes every single day, the first, of course, we're not talking the first month of its life. We're still trying to make sure it's going to eat appropriately and stuff like that. But by the time you get to that point where they're eating consistently, I'm already taking them and letting them go on the floor. No, I'm not letting them free roam because you will lose a little Retic at that age. But I want to see what it's going to do. I want to see what areas it wants to go to and things like that. Does it go high? Does it go low? Some Retics like high. Some Retics prefer lower, smaller, corners and stuff like that.
So you're at that age, you're already paying attention to the temperature preferences.
I'm already documented. If anybody who got a snake from me, they have video of me showing them the different stages of the life of their babies and what I do. So they know, like when I tell a person, you can hand this baby to your child. You know what I mean? Like, this is one that my grandkids handle. They see my grandkids handle. They see my grandkids going in there, picking the baby up, and all that type of stuff. So and even that with children, because I am not a fan of children who did not come up with the Retic, handling a Retic, if that makes sense. Because I believe the child needs to be able to read it too. And I'm not a fan of, like, my grandkids cannot come in here and get the 17-footer out the enclosure. However, they help with every baby that's in that room. You know what I mean? And it's just the risk factor. Do I think any of these animals will do anything to them? No. No, they handle them. Like, once they out the enclosure and they out, they can, they know what to do. They know how to be respectful to it. But it's like my Rottweiler. I would have never let the Rottweiler stay in a room with my grandkids alone, because you can do the wrong thing to a Rottweiler and just a playful bite can be harmful. So the other thing I tell people, when I give them a breakdown of how your animal likes to eat, what they like to eat, and I also feed them different things. From birth, they're getting different foods. They're getting rats. They're getting chicks. They're getting different things so you can have different options. The only thing I will not give them is mice or ASFs. I don't give my Retics those at all. Now, but I will say to somebody else, if you having babies who won't eat, an ASF will make a baby Retic eat. I mean, it's just the truth. Like, I don't know why or how, but you don't want that animal thinking that's what it's supposed to eat. And again, I think Retics remember.
I think African soft fur breeders are like sprinkling crack, like in their Retic, like on top of the rodents, like they're shipping them out with like a little sprinkle of, like, because every species is turned on to that.
Even with ball pythons, they want to ball pythons. You give it an ASF, it's typically going to eat it for whatever reason. So then every day, what you said, you gotta, if you're not taking them out the enclosure, you gotta be in the room. When your babies are in shed, handle them, touch their face, touch their tails, all of that stuff. So a lot of the things that we were told not to do, like if an animal is in shed, leave it alone. No, why? What if you have to go in there and get that animal, right? You want to teach them that even though you can't see me quite it's quite good, I'm still going to be touching you.
The only argument I will make is there's a certain point in shed where their skin becomes delicate that you can actually rip off that top layer of their shed if they're trying to get away or they jerk. Never happened to me, and I've only seen it happen like 3 times.
But I think we all know what that part is, Luke. It's like, it's the milky shed part. It's the milky part. And I think that's when the snake is in the deepest part of the shed. And that's the difference. Like, so right now I have one. The tiger pot is in that part of shed. I will not mess with him right now. And how I know, if I open his enclosure, he won't have it's like he's dead right now. You ever have a retic in shed and they're laying down with their head sideways and mouth open?
Oh my God.
And you think they're literally dead?
So many more times than I'd like to count, and you would think
it scares the shit out of me.
Yes. I still have to go in and
just poke it.
Yep. But I still feed them in shed. Like, if an animal wants to eat in shed, I still feed them in shed. Like, all of those things, all the things that you shouldn't do,
right?
As long as it's not going to harm the animal, I have probably tested the waters on it.
So you're going through and you're recommending to people to just be as hands-on as possible. And at what stage are you recommending that people allow them to start, like, opening the cage and allowing them to explore?
So the moment where they're at a size, I feel that they're not going
to get outside the house.
Because I think for me, I don't want to tell people, and I do it, but I get to sit here and watch them. I don't want people to think that you can let a little retic and get ghosts real fast. But once they get to that size where you hear where they are, let them out. Let them free roam. So, and people ask me all the time, because I can have like 6 of them out at the same time. And they'll be like, well, you're not worried about them. Only thing I'm worried about them at that point is them hurting themselves. Because they have, like I said, the big ones can move these cabinets. I don't want them to pull a cabinet down themselves or something like that. But pretty much other than that, I know where each one of them are. Like, something is shifted, moved. You know where they are. And then you find that each one have a particular route when they come out. Like, I can tell you which way each one of them want to go.
You know what's funny that you say that? I was going to say, I've had a small retic get out of its tub. It was like 10 to 14 days later, and I saw it, and I was like, oh.
This wasn't the tiger, was it?
No. Okay. 10 to 14 days later, I saw it, and I was like, oh, you got out? It left my mind, and I was like, oh, hey. So I put it back, but... and that was just to comment on the idea of wait until they're large enough, right?
Yes.
To that you'll know. But what's funny that you say is they have their route. I had one snake that got out of its rack 3 different times. And what's funny is all 3 times I found it on top of one of the yellow bin WRX. It was just sitting in the same spot all 3 times. And it's hilarious. Like, now I still habitually will go in my garage and I look on top of that tub to see if I see a snake.
Yeah, that's another thing I observed. Like, it's very rare that they will go off their normal routes. But yeah, all my customers, I say, don't stop handling them. These snakes are used to being handled. They like being handled. And I think another thing too is when you handle them all the time, nothing is scary to them, right? So I can jump over them. I can sweep around them. Sometimes even if they sleep, it's not like I alert them and they go instantly into fright or food mode. It's like, okay, this is normal. If I'm out and I go to sleep, I'm still going to hear cleaning and, all of this is going to be happening around me. Other snakes are going to climb on me if I'm out. You know what I mean? They are people ask that, well, how do you keep them from harming each other? Now, where I am careful is not even with my males. 2 females cycling at the same time are more of a risk to me than the male around, the 2 males around a female. 2 females cycling at the same time, I have seen them like literally look at each other like it's about to be war and literally like hit each other with their tails, So I get to experience that too. I've never experienced it where the males got into fight mode. You know what I mean? But the females, I have noticed 2 females fighting at the same time should not be together. And that's something that people, it was always opposite for me. Don't let the males around, each other if there's a cycling female in the room. No, what I don't do is let cycling females get together because it's about to be war. And we've seen that multiple times. So those are things that I documented, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want to watch for. We don't want 2 females we know cycling together.
Right. So essentially, like once they're old enough, and
once they're old enough,
you allow them to explore. Obviously, you need an explore-proof room, right? So, like, just setting up the room, or at least like just making sure that
you're observing.
Right, you're observing at first. So right. Observing at first, and then at that point, I'm assuming it's you start to learn about your Retics behaviors enough to where you can give them another yard. You can give them another inch, and eventually it turns into what your cow has got going on.
Yep. I just think the cow, to me, is just what's phenomenal about her. Even the other ones who free roam, even if they go upstairs, Lucas, they're coming back home. They're coming back home like within a couple hours after they get tired. You know what I mean? She has no desire to come back home except for, okay, I have special needs that I can only get in that box. So I'm going to go back to that box to get it. Now, another thing is, if you keep her door open even after she goes back, she'll go in there and drink water. She'll go in there and use the bathroom. Unless she wants to eat, she'll come right back out after she take care of those needs and go back to the same room. So if we let her, she probably would never be in that enclosure. If we just kept the door open, she probably would go in there and do what she need to do, and come back out. That, when I say we'll go down into history, I think is probably, so far in my experiences, the thing that wows me every single time, every single day. I'm not over this yet. I'm not over it yet. Like, every time I go in that room and she's still there, or, she doesn't use the bathroom. That's a big one for me. Like, how do she know to not use the bathroom in here? You know what I mean?
Especially with how frequently they do.
It's weird.
No, it's so cool. I mean, I've had people tell me like, hey, I potty train my Retic. I take them outside and they go out in the yard and they will not go in their enclosure. And you hear about that, but when you have a snake that has free roaming ability, it's going to use that enclosure as a potty. That's hilarious. That's so funny.
But you wouldn't see this, and that's why I tell people who challenge me on certain things, you haven't tried it, and I get it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't believe it if I didn't do it. If you told me that someone had a snake that will go stay out 5 days and don't use the bathroom, don't drink water, any of that, and then come back to that enclosure. Shoot, I think when I heard Lori Tarini talk about how a snake can go, I think she said 50 feet and they'll come right back, even in the wild. That's another reason what made me test some of this, like listening to her. I'm like, okay, well, shit, this is just a house. You know what I mean? Let's see what they can do.
She introduced a paper that's being published right now with Reticulated Pythons and how they have a home range. They in the wild, they have a home range that's pretty big. I think it's like up to 20 kilometers big, but they don't explore that, and they tend to come back and gravitate to a certain specific place. It's fascinating. It's pretty cool.
So we get to see that on a smaller level, right? It's not the wild, but you got to keep in mind that, the same brains they have in the wild, just probably a little bit more cautious, in the wild than here. Because that's another thing I tell people. I have all of these enclosures set up where it's a window or door. Because if there's a fire, of course, we want to get out first. But what I can do is at least open these doors. And these snakes are smart enough to find safety if we give them that outlet.
Right.
If there's a fire. The ones who don't are probably going to be the one, the Motley Tiger, who, like, where y'all going? Where everybody going? She might be too late because she doesn't react to coming out like they do. But the other ones, I'm sure, they feel smoke, intense heat. They will find the air. They will find the spot where they can breathe. And so that's something else that I tell people. I like for the enclosures to be set up for the bigger snakes where, God forbid something happen, I want to be able to save as many as I possibly can. And I also truly believe that the animals we keep in captivity, if we release in a wild, won't survive.
No, absolutely not.
I think people don't realize that either. So that's another thing.
Unless you're in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, why would you even do that? But my whole
Right.
thing is that some people would say, and I've heard that, you know, people who have released animals, well, they're from the wild, not your animal. Your animal came out of an egg into somebody's enclosure. It has no clue that there's other animals out in that wild that can literally take them out of here. You know, even though they apex predators, there are other animals out there who can challenge them and take them out, you know. So just not getting into these animals if it's not for, kind of like turtles, because I have them too. My turtles will go to my nephew when I die because they're going to live 100+ years. Your reticulated python is going to live, if you take care of them, at least 25+ years, if you take good care of them in captivity. And I think a part of that is allowing them that free roaming exercise, because I do believe lung compression on them, just like a paraplegic. You know, if you're not getting the exercise you need for your lungs, fluid builds up. Eventually, it becomes something that takes you out of here. Muscular dystrophy in these snakes. They are big muscles. If you're not taking them out to exercise those muscles, I see people on platforms and they'll be like, what is this? Is this not in my snake's stomach or back or whatever? It's probably something that's evolving around muscular dystrophy, you know, because y'all don't let them get out enough. So everything I do for these animals because I want them to live a long time. But I also see that letting them out makes them happy, Lucas. They enjoy roaming. They do. And when they're done with it, they go back. And that's okay, you know. I won't sell my, I tell people when they ask me what is the most important things I think is important about keeping these animals. You got to have the space and you got to have the time. If you're not willing to give these animals the time, get a ball python. A ball python is absolutely okay with you not messing with it every day. But a retic is going to want engagement. Even when I was working and my office was set up down here, my snakes I were allowed during the day. They even paid attention to my screen. So I could be on a Zoom call, and all of a sudden you'll see Hefe coming up, and Hefe will sit there and look at the screen because Hefe watched me sit here and look at the screen. And so if you can see a snake do that, why don't you think they have the capability to free roam? And they're smart. You know where them snakes don't go? Where that water monitor is. Never. I can keep that door open. They are not going where that monitor is. And
you want to know why? It's because that room is hotter because it's got all those heat bulbs in there.
So. And it could be that too. It could be that too. You know, but they are, for whatever reason, they say that is not where I'm going. They'll go everywhere else. And I don't do crazy things. Like I would never let the monitor with the snakes. Like people, and I'm not knocking it. I do believe that sometimes there are animals that can be with these animals. I'm just not the girl that's going to try it. My biggest fear of a dog and a snake together, and it's not the snake I'm worried about. It's the dog. My Yorkie poo is for sure going to get eaten because it's going to irritate the snake. Not that the snake probably... That animal gets every chance he gets when he comes down here to get in front of one of these enclosures. Instead of just walking past like the Rottweiler used to, it will sit in front of there, like almost like trying to get the snake's attention. No, you're not going to agitate my snake like that. Get out of this room. I don't believe in letting little animals, because I think that just like a pit bull, irritated while it's enclosed, the moment it gets out,
it's going to come for you.
It's going to get you, you know? So yeah, I just think you got to enjoy them. I could not live without them. Yeah. I just can't. Like if you told me, if the state of Maryland said you no longer could have retics, where am I moving? Texas looks good, real good right now.
Come join us here.
The houses are better and they're cheaper.
come join. Yeah, way cheaper than Maryland. Cheaper. You know, what's funny is I was looking at prices over there just because I have like my company I work for. They have one in Baltimore. Man, the freaking houses are expensive.
And I'm in Southern Maryland. I'm closer to DC. And even this house, the value, we paid like $309 for this house. The value in this house now is almost like $575. I'm like, I wish I could sell it and buy another one, but I can't. Because if we sold it, you know what I mean? We're not going to be able to buy for that same value.
No,
which
no,
is crazy.
exactly.
Which is crazy. But yeah, it's very expensive here. But I saw a house in Texas. It was $279, 5-bedroom, 4 baths. It had land and everything. I could build an alligator out back if
yeah, I got a 2,000 square foot house on a 1/4 acre, and you know, during when the house market was up, cost me $260.
Don't get me started about Utah. You buy a shack for $500 out here.
You buy a shack.
It's crazy. It's crazy to see just, you know, how the cost of living and everything. Like, I don't eat eggs, but people have been complaining about eggs for the longest. So I'm in the store the other day, and eggs are like $12, and I'm like,
no, they went up to $7 here again.
that is
wild.
insane. Like, eggs are, I don't know. I guess.
Why we charge it so much for something that comes out of a chicken's ass?
You know, of course, you know, my husband is the breadwinner at this particular time in life. I waited for this part of my life, and I live off of my the company I left. I had a partnership, so I have savings, but I'm a person who think of savings like for my entire life. I don't ever want to have to go back to work. I don't care what happens in the economy. I don't care who's president. None of that bothers me because I live in this little bubble, and in this bubble, I have to be protective over the finances regardless, you know what I'm saying? Because unless I want to go take my butt back to work. So I think that what we need to do as just people in general right now, even in the reptile community, is to continue to push the education on everything, right? But when it comes to these animals, when people ask me all the time, what keeps you from buying more and more and more? It's because the time. I want to be able to give every last one of them the time. If we make the deal and we bring the F1 over here, I want to spend that time and document that. Like, that is what I do this for. That's what is more fulfilling than anything. And like I said, each day I learn something or see something different and new. The other day I saw a retic who sat there licking the leg of a table for 45 minutes straight. I don't know why. I don't know what was on the leg of the table, but that's all it did for 45 minutes straight. I don't know.
That's
maybe
a nice
one day we'll
leg.
figure it out. But I want to know what is going on in that snake's mind that will lick the leg of a table.
That's good oak right there.
Straight.
Smells of rich
ash.
mahogany.
Right.
What is it, right?
They're like, damn, this wood's from Indonesia.
Right. Well, this stuff smells like the jungle. Like, I don't know what it is, but just observing stuff like that. And it makes me realize again, though, how much is going on in that little brain, when I say big brains of them, because they are very, very intelligent. They know when the stove is hot.
Absolutely.
They know when something's too cold. So when people say to me that letting the animal free roam is not good for their health, me and my vet will tell you you're totally wrong. Because the cow, for example, after spending all that money,
after
after
$1,800, the answer was let it out of its cage.
And all I needed to do was to accept the fact. And like I said, for me, it was just that I never had a pusher, so it can't be that.
Right.
It can't be husbandry. It got to be a respiratory infection. So yeah. My vet and I will definitely disagree with anyone who says that. And at the snake itself, if you ask my cow and she could respond, she is very much content in that room.
Jeez. Oh man. Nikki, I'm gonna be honest, I think I want to title this episode like the most crazy extraordinary way to keep reticulated pythons. But we appreciate you for coming on, telling us like this entire process and story. You've inspired me. I mean, I've learned a lot from this episode. And I still got so much more questions I'm gonna hit you up with.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna reach out to you.
There are other people, Lucas, keeping these animals that so the way that I'm keeping, I'm not the only one. Every customer that I've sold to are keeping them the same way now. And some of them even better. Like one customer I sold to at a reptile show sent me a picture of an enclosure build that they built for their snake. I'm like, oh, damn, can you build me one? I'll give you a snake. Can I get one of those? It got hammocks and everything. I'm like, can I get one of those over here?
I've seen stuff recently like that too. I'm just like, ooh, where do I buy?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Nikki, can you drop your social media plugs,
Yep.
your YouTube channel? Can you do all that before we send you out back?
Absolutely. So YouTube channel is Ladytis Exotics on YouTube, and that's where I post a lot of short form content and some long content, no more than 10 minutes, just telling you, different, so you can see some of these things real time and, and see what I do. Instagram, I like to show a lot of live, it's happening now type of stuff on Instagram. So you definitely want to follow Ladytis Exotics on Instagram. I do also have my website, ladytis.com. I don't post nothing but normally the animals for sale on there. You can do videos there. I probably do a video every now and then when they having clutches hatching or something like that. And then Facebook is Ladytis Exotics too.
Okay. Awesome. Nikki, we're going to have you back on. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going to
So
talk
you
more
guys
about
know,
this.
like, I waited for this moment. Let me tell you what I really would have liked. When Kagan was on here,
Oh
like,
my
if it was
gosh.
like y'all, me, and Kagan, like, so I was like,
We miss her.
That would turn into like a 6-hour podcast. Easy. No
Easy.
problem.
Easy.
Like,
You know what?
We would stop when one of us like just crashed out.
I'm gonna make this section here a clip, and I'm gonna send it to Kagan, and we'll have you back on with her so we can talk.
Yeah, I admire her. Again, one of the women that I, in the back, you just kind of watch. And I know that she had like the hands-on experience with like really, really huge sticks. And I love to hear her speak. I love to hear her, just put her knowledge out there and her hands-on experience. So yeah, when y'all had Kagan on here, I was like, okay, this would be cool. This would be cool.
Yeah, she went to Florida. She did monitor things, so she's enjoying that.
So wait a minute. So she couldn't keep her retics in Florida?
Nope.
Oh my God.
And
I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
Exactly.
Florida gotta get with it. It's the perfect place for retics, y'all.
Right? I would keep them all outside if I was there.
Exactly. I mean, literally. I just think that what I would like to see all across though is another reason why I do this is that if someone could take a video of mine, right, and take it to the Congress, right, when we having one of these battles, and how they think that these snakes are just these monstrous, mean animals. Here you go. They are pets.
Right.
Better than some of the pets y'all keep at home. The things I can do with these animals are very much intimate, loving, caring. I'm not saying that that's what they feel, but they definitely enjoy my company. So I don't know what they feel, but they enjoy my company. But I love them.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I love them.
Yeah, I think that getting more episodes like this with the passion, the love for these animals is such a powerful thing for our listeners.
Oh yeah.
We all need it. We
Yeah.
all need it. And it's more now though. Thanks, like I said. But 5 years ago,
we're getting there.
You didn't see little Abbies and stuff like that, handling these
No,
snakes.
Abby does a great job
Yes,
with
I
really
love
doing
Abby.
that.
I love Abby. I've learned a lot from her too, just kind of pushing the envelope a little bit,
Right. Nikki, thanks so much.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely. We'll, like I said, we'll have you back on, and you have a good evening.
All right, you do the same. Bye, Nate.
See ya.
All right.
All right, I'm still processing. My brain is still spinning. I'm still downloading, uploading, digesting all of that information. I know that a lot of people are going to listen to this, and people that have been doing this for a long time and just kind of like, one off. But like, I think that there is so much good information in that episode in regards to their behavior and their the personality that retics can have. Like, I mean, I agree with the idea if you are going to keep a pet snake like a retic is, like, not breed them, right? Don't get a bunch, but like if you're going to have one retic, it's going to be the best experience of any other snake out there.
Oh yeah, hands down. And I think just like the growing aspect and like giving them the time to, just show their personality, show their needs just through observation is one of the biggest ways I've grown with my retics. So I think I just need to further that a little bit more. I know there's a couple animals in my collection that I would love to just give free roam of this room to and just see what interactions like given their own terms.
Right. Yeah. Want to give a shout out to our Patreon members. I know that we mentioned the Discord earlier, but thank you so much for all the support that you guys give us. And you guys entertain my silly ideas and Nathan being on there. Nathan, by the way, happy birthday. It was your birthday yesterday. So
double threes.
Yeah. Double threes, 33. Okay. Yeah. That's happening for me later this year.
Yeah, it was a good one. I got to spend a lot of time at the local aquarium where Weston's going to have one of his retics here soon. And cool. Yeah, I'm so proud to have such a cool facility that I'm able to just like kind of, go away and daydream in outside of my retic room. So yeah, it was a good one.
Awesome. Well, anyways, guys, we'll see you next week on episode 131. We don't know what we're doing. Actually, we do.
We do. So we're going to have, and like, I know we've talked about the date, but I'm like so scared that it's not going to happen for whatever reason. I'm just getting in my head, but we are going to have on Zach from A Life Exotic. He's actually a Utah native as well. He has this incredible greenhouse where he houses so many different species of reptiles and amphibians, even some egg-eating snakes. I can't remember exactly what species, but just a little jungle in his backyard here in Utah, and it's so cool. It's just another example of if you put passion behind these animals and you really want to do something incredible, you really can make it happen.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. But we'll see you next week for that episode. Take care.